Hi, I wanted to share an experience I had this morning in a meditation, and it, the reason sharing is really helpful for people because my language is going to open up new pathways for you in understanding your own process and your own practice. And the more we do this, it's that cross-referencing sort of thing. The more we create. It's like more pathways for light to flow through to us, right? But you have to be open-minded, and that's the key. If someone sits and listens to someone share something that happened to them, and they right away go into denial or say, "Oh, well, that's not how that works," or that archangel doesn't do that, or that ascended master isn't known for this thing, and that yet that person was sharing an experience they had with that angel or the ascended master or whatever, and it doesn't check the box for someone else. It's really important that we don't die on our mountain there, where we are limiting reality to um, to the things that we believe, because we know that there is that predictive programming that happens, the expectations, right? That our psyche, our subconscious knows exactly what the sum of all of our parts is, what we've accepted to be real. It's got all this, the old systems, all the old patterns, that sort of thing. So there's a whole bunch of things that just keep moving forward and moving forward. We don't even have to do a darn thing, and our life will unfold through these old programs. Where it gets tricky is where we really want to shift some of those patterns or step into higher timelines, because now what we have to do is get our attention off of the old predictive programming, right? Those, you know, automatic kind of, autopilot programs, right? And shift them into something new, into more expanded, more light field. And that those are only going to happen when we're not denying the light to other people's experience. Now, that doesn't mean you have to say that everybody else's experience is in your timeline, right? Because you haven't experienced it yet. It's not your lived experience. But you might want to go, oh, that's really interesting. I wonder, why they experienced it that way. They've asked a question, and right away, your mind, instead of getting busy with, you know, old predictive programming, it's now got new questions to solve. You've given it, the queries are really interesting, right? Seek and ye shall find. It really, that's a clue for how we work as humans, right? We came here as students of this experience of what reality, can be. So asking the good questions are important. So when something shows up for somebody else, let's say somebody talks about the dragons that they experienced, in, I don't know, a vision or a meditation or a dream, right? And you don't have any experience with dragons, you're right away this, we have a knee-jerk reaction of judgment, right? Like, well, that's weird, right? They're crazy people, then, that kind of thing. But you want to go, okay, wait a minute here. If I'm trying to master my reality, my, people call it your manifestations, but it really is mastering your energy, right? And that's what we're here for. We're all here to master our energy. So I'm just allowing whatever it is that's being shaped up in the conversation. This is how my teams work through me, because I'm an energy channel. So yeah, so if it looks strange, just understand that's just how I function. And we're all going to be unfolding in the way we function and learning it as we all wake up. That's what we're doing right now. We're all unfolding our piece of the program, or the tapestry, right? The thread in the tapestry, right now, especially, right? So, anyways, yeah. So if I was to really wonder about that dragon and go, is this something that I want in my future reality? And is it scary, or is it empowering, right? Did it feel exciting? Did it feel like the person that was, connecting with the dragon? Were they flying, right? Were they Was there, like, did the message feel expansive to them? Because that's what, enlightenment and empowerment are not us hanging on to the old, you know, ancestral, we'll call them systems, right? All religion is just, they're just systems of, you can call them, oh, it's branches on the tree, right? But they're how we allowed light to come through to us through certain language. Language was really, it varied, right? And names and stories and mythology and all that. Those are all just different ways where people unpacked the information in format ions, right? And they allowed the information to be held in their consciousness as lessons, as teachings, as, for morality, for different, empowerment ideas, right? So, yeah. So what we want to do, though, is we want to, rather than writing them all off, um, negotiate it so that it is empowering for you, right? That's it. Yes, it happened to them in their reality, and you don't want to be gullible about everything and take on everyone's story. But you could go, okay, and that's interesting. So, higher self and teams, family of light. May I understand a little more about what that was about for that person, right? And when you do stuff like that, and that's where I'm at right now with my consciousness is I watch, I don't know, a couple times a day I'll put on a little, like, something on YouTube, or maybe it's an interview I saw, because I really enjoy some of the new, not necessarily new, they're years old now, but podcasters in the spiritual world, and they're always, interviewing interesting people, and I really enjoy them because it kind of, it's affirming, that there are other people also on a spiritual path, right? And they've activated their missions, which are missed ions, right? So we're basically coming back to collect these ions that we signed up to bring on, to reactivate or remember for the collective, right? And yeah, so something is being held and it's being surrounded by light, which is very interesting. I'm in the base of the pillar, so we're bringing in some. I mean, I can't tell you exactly. This is the thing, Deborah. There was a time where I really wanted to know everything that was going on, and I would always say only light is real, and I'd surrender my will to divine will. So I made sure I was always coaching myself to be in the light, and then eventually I just realized this is light. This is how the light is working through me. This is not my, like, because nothing I said would change what my hands were doing. So this is that ascended aspect of Deborah that already knew what needed to be done and what needed to be worked on. And so my personality is just playing catch up, right? So that's all. But yeah. So getting back to my meditation this morning, which is one of the things I wanted to share was, it was a dematerialization of some areas in our life that our teams wanted to bring back into it to a 0 point, basically. And then it was a rematerialization in a higher, I don't know if they called it a dimension of consciousness, but it was like a higher expression of it. And we were working with the Venusians and the Mars emissaries. So, you can unpack that in a lot of different ways, right? We know that we have divine feminine, divine masculine codes in there, but, the hemispheres of the brain, people could see that. It's basically our cosmic consciousness that came in that is probably, guiding certain systems within us, right? But yeah, anyways, I don't get too hung up, on any backstory. That's going to be the key for a lot of us, is letting go of the backstories, right? Something's really being pulled here. So this meditation, when I was my teams were showing me what needed to be dematerialized, I just had glimpses of a few things in my life, but I still don't know if I really understood the areas, but it didn't really matter. I was surrendering, I was letting go, I was breathing, and again, flashes of things came up, but it wasn't solid. And I think part of it is because I'm in such trust with my teams that I've done a lot of the surface level work that now these are bigger themes. They're like bigger metaphors. So it's not the energy could play out in a lot of different ways, right? Um, it can be interpreted in different ways is as stories in my life. So again, I'm just going to use a blanket one, like power of other structure, right? So you could get glimpses of it through different relationships, through your jobs, through governmental things. There's a few different ways where those structures could show up, and then I would right away go, oh, these are just power of other structures that were being dematerialized there. And then at the end, so what I did there with my hands and the collapsing there, right? That was part of it. And then my hands at the very end, when we were rematerializing, so we lifted it up, and this is what I think this is what we're doing, because I'm going to say I'm guessing, but we ended up at this really high place above my head, and then it beautifully opened up in this beautiful new sphere, and I knew that whatever those stories were about, they basically shifted. They got like a frequency lift, an octave lift. It was like they were suddenly in the upper room, and yeah, it was quite beautiful. So I just wanted to share that, because when people see my hands moving and doing all sorts of different things, how these energies move through you, whatever it is you're experiencing right now, because my hands are being pulled up here. It's really hard to explain, because there's a magnetism inside that's being pulled to a magnetism on the outside. So my hands are held, right? It's like, yeah, it's quite beautiful actually, because it just feels so supported and feels so, like I can be really confident, in what's being held. And the mudra that I'm making above my head is really interesting. I wish I was further back so you could see the mudra, but I've seen statues and sculptures holding these mudras. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. So I suspect, because I'm learning through physics that, about this universal, the one field, you know, that we are all, one consciousness, playing as the many, right? And that divine creator is in all of us, right? And from that place of understanding, and physics has really been helping me with that, because I was never going to be all in any type of a religious system. I was never. I wasn't a fanatic that way, right? So I was always going to be skeptical with those kind of, I'm going to call them the man-made systems, right? But the scientific ones are really interesting, because, they're the whole, in order to even, you have to do the studies so many times, and to have the outcomes, match so many times before the papers even get, considered, right? And that sort of thing. So there's a lot of the stress test for them to be published as, legitimate findings. They're pretty stringent, right? So anyway, so for me, physics really gave me permission to play in that playground. And when you are it's like reverse engineering. When you, from my personality to going to that, the unified field, right? And doing, meditation practices twice a day, and working with my teams, calling it in, doing a lot of shadow work, healing a lot of egoic structures, and not by denying my shadow, not by, um, uh, you know, mm, what's the word? Like you have to integrate it. You can't push it away, right? You can't dissolve your shadow. It's the flavor of who you came in to experience. So if you're trying to do anything to your shadow that isn't integrating it, you're gonna. It's like it can't. You can push it down. It's kind of like the blocked emotions, but they're eventually just going to come back up, right? So the work is to integrate the shadow, right? It's to but to know thyself, right? Once you've integrated your shadow, nothing can manipulate you anymore. Nothing. Um, there's not going to be any surprises because you'll know um, your triggers. You'll know your reactions. You'll know. Mm, yeah. So the media and things, you start seeing things through more clarity, right? And so a lot of people that have not processed their shadow that are being emotionally manipulated right now, right? There's some tribalism stuff going on as well, because that need to, be safe with others and, strength in numbers, all that kind of stuff, the safety, because there's that part of them that is, it's just operating from more of a primal kind of energy that has never been owned, right? And especially if you've got bad guys, if you've got people in the world that you are denying the light to, that you think are doing things to you or do to the planet or to their country or whatever it is that are bad. And I'm not saying they don't exist, right? But we put them in place. Every person agreed on a soul level, not the personality level, but on a soul level, we agreed to come in and experience timelines where these people, the characters that they agreed to play those roles for us, so that for our greatest growth, right? Um, Again, I've talked about this in other in other videos, but so there's nobody doing anything to you on those levels. So anyway, so when I expand out and I become this one, there's nothing outside of me, which means every Buddhist monk that ever, sat and held a mudra for hours and hours and chanted for hours and hours, every person spiritually who ever had a rigid practice and dedicated their lives to learning these practices are part of that one consciousness that I can expand into, that I can tap into. And I know through my learning and my being a student of the world right now, that I'm quantum. And what they've put in the field in terms of how they mastered energy is also available to me when I'm in that bigger expanded state. I can download that. It's available. And so that version of me is what's actually moving through Deborah now. Right? And I'm in the process of, again, the reverse engineering so that my personality can now understand it at some point. But I don't know if I'm ever meant to fully understand, because I never want to take the divinity out of it and use it in any service to self way. I have to go into the space of I trust the divine, that whatever is most appropriate in this now moment for every person ever watching this video, right? We're all coming together, connecting with the intention of expanding ourselves and growing our light bodies, our consciousness, right? And connecting and merging more with our higher consciousness, and more of our energy mastery, because that's the energy channeling that I do. It's not the language channeling, it's energy channeling, and I get a sense for it. But yeah, so that meditation this morning, the dematerialization and the rematerialization, was really interesting, and I wanted to share that piece because we have different language for, dissolving, the alchemy, right? The transmutation, there's a lot of different language for it. But but that was just another one that came through, right? And sometimes you get different visuals, right? And oh, I did have a really interesting visual I wanted to share. I'm going to see if it's going to drop in, because boy, it's so clear when you're in your meditations and you're holding that space. And I always think, oh, I can't forget this. And then you come out of it and you become, I hate using the word 3D again, but less multidimensional, right? And but boy, when I was in that multidimensional space, it was really beautiful. Yeah, one of the things that I was saying when I was rematerializing was, I have come, I have come, I have come. And that was really interesting, because, and I do say it once in a while, but when the words come in, when I have sessions with people, certain words come in, and at the time I don't question it, I just say it. It just feels really organic and natural. And, and I think, oh, I'm going to remember this. And then all of a sudden, an hour later, I can't remember anything that came through. It's so funny. But I wasn't meant to, because it wasn't for me anyways, right? And, that's the thing, is even my dreams, there was a time where I was writing everything down and I thought I needed to remember things and they were all clues. And even that, I realized the prescription for my ascension isn't, it's by what I, on a daily, day to day, it's what I give currency to, and the stories that I give those currency to. So what scripts am I giving my currency to, right? And are they good ones? So, if I'm listening to somebody, let's say I like, listening to, Emilio on Just Tap In, for instance. I really like a lot of his guests. And I just love his questioning style. He's just a beautiful soul, right? Alex from Next Level Soul, and, Pam Gregory. I have a few of them that I really like listening to. And I love Kelly Kolodny as well. She's a favorite. But, I hear once in a while they'll say something, and I don't necessarily agree with that as a script for me. But that's okay. I see their script, and I know that what their lesson is in doing that, or choosing to experience something in that way, it's shaping them, and they're going to either heal what it's shaping, because maybe there might be a flavor of fear there, or this has to happen in order for us to get here, or this has to split off over here, or these people are still keeping this away from humanity, or they're putting this in the food, or chemtrails, whatever it is. And I'm not saying that any of these people are saying that. I'm just saying, over the years, I've heard a lot of those sort of stories. That those people that are tuned into those stories are, because they're holding a lot of light within them, by them paying attention to that, hopefully it's shining light there, so that there are the people that are in place to do something about it are going to be able to do something about it. So it doesn't mean they're going to stay there, though, right? Especially if they're not called to do something within that story, because not all of us have, any, call it skin in that game directly, but we do indirectly, because if you decide it's real, there's, the sum of your parts, there's a piece of you that is going to go, oh yeah, that's right, we've agreed to this, poisoning, or these people to do this, or bad people, or this power of other structure in place, and it affects multiple systems, right, within you, right? So so when you're listening, those scripted ions that you accept, because it all comes back to the ions. That's why my channel is Divine Ions. The divine ions is when you are in perfect balance and alignment, when you have balanced your masculine and your feminine, with your inner child, that inner You can call it your divine essence, that soul aspect of you, the purity, right? So it's your, you know, masculine and feminine, you know, with the inner child, that sort of thing. There's a lot of language for it, but it's your trinity, right? And when you can come into that beautiful state where everything is harmonized, and your soul song is singing with with this beautiful fine-tuned instrument that you are, right? um, you know Now you can trust, that what comes to you, you're going to be lit up at the right time. That your mission will be more obvious to you because you'll step into that part that where you do have skin in the game, right? For me, it's the quantum programming, right? There was a talk I think this morning that I was listening to. No, it was yesterday. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. My days are running into each other. We have a lot of smoke here in BC, and it feels a bit discombobulating, I have to say, waking up every day. And yeah, the fires I know are, there's, the positive part is there's some cleansing happening, and the whole saging of the land, and the rebalancing of the elementals, right? Has to, there's a lot of stuff at play, a lot of moving parts, right? So the people that are playing their role right now are being called to do whatever it is they do. I hold space in with what I do with my grid work, and I'm all about the balance. So I work with the balancing of all these elementals within me, and I'm part of the team creating the new timelines, right? So that's the somebody would call it. I had one friend called, say it was a priestess, or another one I think was the architect, or another one was well, there's the grid workers, but oh gosh, there was. Anyways, now I'm going to forget them. The weavers, right, and the grandmothers, the coders, and that sort of thing. But again, the language just doesn't matter if any of this resonates. So when you're listening to these talks, you likely have an aspect that can play here, right? Because it is, playing in that formless world, that imaginal kind of where you're practicing this new world where there's no power of other structures, right? Where you are dreaming, and there's that the form follows the energy from these dreams, from these and asking the questions, the what ifs, right? Or I wonder how this will happen, and those sorts of things. Those people that can play in those areas of where we are working the inner to outer piece, knowing the outer is lagging behind and it's just going to show up, where there's a lot of people stuck as looking at the outer world to inform them how their inner world is. So they're filled with anxiety and fear because they're absolutely they give way too much value to the outer world. Now the pendulum has to swing a little bit, right? So some people are giving too much value to the inner world, but again, it's balancing. So there's no too much in that case. It's the right amount because of the other group. So every action has its sequel and opposite. So one group exists, the other group has to exist, right? So, whew. So yeah, here we are. It's funny. There's my the left side of me, which is my dog side, is holding the fist closed, and the other side's holding it open, which is very interesting. So again, I'm not sure what's happening there, but it doesn't really matter. I trust. Yeah, we're lifting. So everything's getting an octave lift here, right? It's energy being handed over to the higher realms, your higher teams, your higher self, right? And the more we lift the density up, the more that light now can come back in, and we are becoming more of our light bodies, right? Your crystalline consciousness is coming back online, so that homo luminous consciousness that they're saying is what humans are evolving into, right? it has to happen through the letting go of the density, right? So yeah, we just can't steer it. We just have to be in enough trust that that our teams are free to flow. Isn't that funny? That look at what's flowing. So this is our pillars getting a beautiful, like a cleansing. There's a bit of a twinkly. Oh, I can't. I don't have language for how it feels. It's kind of funny. It's beautiful though. Okay, thank you. There, that just brought us back around. So yeah, so anchor that down, and have some water, maybe get grounded somewhere, and that was very nice. But that was just a little process to open you up to the idea of what that inner alchemy is, what it could look like for you, what it could feel like for you. Because again, I'm doing the reverse engineering. I know there's an aspect of me that this is easy for her, but Deborah, through my conversation, through my permissions when I sit to meditate, it's now coming through me. And again, I just get glimpses of what it is when what it's showing up there. So oh, that's nice that it wanted to come in there. So sending you lots of love, and enjoy your scripting, and but your scripts are your scripts. You don't have to take on anyone else's ascension script, right? Their prescription is their prescription, right? These are the prescripted ions, and your what lights you up is going to be part of your script. And the more you know thyself, the more you're going to go, oh, this is what I'm here to do, right? And it doesn't have to be big or elaborate. It can be, I mostly do these for myself, right? Whether anybody finds it or not, it doesn't really matter, because I know I'm working, I'm a grid worker, and I'm a record keeper. So when I anchor these down and I put the records in, I ask to make them available to all those who are ready, that's enough, right? That is enough, because those other people that are like me, that are able to expand into that unlimited space, they'll be able to download from me the same way as I can download from those Buddhist monks and all the other higher ascended beings that have already put those maps in the field, right? The blueprints, the templates are there, right? So these temples where we access the templates, right? Your inner temples, right? But you have to be balanced enough to have clarity to be able to get in those spaces, and to have them work through you without any distortions, right? Without any ego. And it's a very, very peaceful place when you can play there. And yeah, so sending you lots of love, and take care. Bye-bye now.